A bit quiet today down at Bass. What I thought I'd do, that some might be interested in, is the rig that I use. There's a lot of variations to this, of course. That's a Daiwa Salter 65. It's very robust. I've had that reel for about nearly 4 years now, about 4 years, and it's done a lot of work and caught a lot of fish, and very robust and hasn't given me any trouble really. Just had one major clean, I suppose. And that line on there is what they call the dogtooth fluid cast line. It's about a 50-pound line. It's very, very fine in the diameter and cast exceptionally well. It's covered with Teflon if you want a good casting distance, and I found it very good, and not too much trouble with the well, actually no trouble with the wind knots and so forth. You get the cheap braids, and invariably you will have trouble with them. They're just not worth the money. But I found that fluid cast a very good line, pretty reasonable price for 300 metres for $40. And that rod's just it's just an old angler rod. I've had it for about 5-6 years. Rods are always a choice. There's a big variety out there, but I find you've got to get the right balance with when you're casting quite a bit. The flexibility of the tip's important, and once you get the right balance, well, you can cast freely without too many troubles, it just makes it a bit easier. That float there is just a standard float with a number 9 ball sinker on the bottom. You might notice the little green soft beads. I generally cut them in half, and what that does, it stops the sinker from impacting on the knots against the swivel, and it doesn't damage them. Those swivels are fairly heavy duty swivels. I found the light brass ones they're just not worth the money. They tangle, they cause problems. So you go for a decent quality swivel. It doesn't have to be a ball bearing one. I've tried them. I wasn't very impressed. They tend to tangle. But it's a standard heavy duty. Swivels is the way to go. That lure is a 3.5 inch what they call octopus bait. You can get them online. Just go to Google and put in octopus bait and it'll come up. You can get various colours. You can request, best over the phone, to request the colour you want, and they'll put all the same colours in the one pack. It's about $5 for a pack of 10, which is pretty cheap buying. A pack of 10 invariably lasts me right through the summer. That's a number 5. That's a 5.0 hook there. The hook is very, very important, particularly the barb and so forth. You use too light a hook, like a 3 or a 2, and you'll continue dropping fish all the time. Once the hole is made in the jaw, and if the barb's not there and the size of the hook's wrong, it'll invariably pull out, and I've seen that happen time and time again. That's a number 5 mustard hook. They need to be nice and strong in case you hit a big king, whatever. And I have no trouble with those at all. I've been using them for about probably 6 or 7 years now. The trace is about 40-pound mono. It's about 4 metres long. If you have too short a trace, I found it's not as effective. Some complain about the trace being too awkward to cast, but I think you get used to it fairly quickly. Most of the guys that are successful down here that do well, they seem to be able to handle it okay. And that's basically the rig. I can't think of anything else that might be useful to you. The only other thing I might comment on is some guys they might think this is too heavy. The lighter rigs are more sporting, which is fair enough. You do lose some of the big kings on the lighter rigs, but that's choice. But I found for myself this has been ideal to handle pretty well anything that I've caught down here. I've been regularly fishing here now 4 and 5 days a week probably for about 8 years. So you get to know the area pretty well, and you get to know what gear works and what doesn't. That's Bass Point Live.